The police pounded on my tent at 1:47 a.m., yanking me from a deep sleep on my own lakefront property. I'd been dreaming of my grandfather, Henry Carter, his voice echoing lessons about standing firm. The harsh glare of a flashlight sliced through the nylon, and my pulse spiked. "Sheriff's Department," a gruff voice barked. "We need to talk to whoever's camping here." Unzipping the flap, I faced Sheriff Tom Harlan, a man I'd known since I was a kid fishing these waters with Grandpa. Behind him stood a woman, arms crossed, chin tilted like she owned the night. Her pristine blonde hair and HOA jacket screamed authority, but her eyes gleamed with smug triumph. "Evening, Nathan," Sheriff Harlan said, his tone apologetic yet firm. "Got a call about illegal camping and suspicious luggage." The woman, Margaret Hensley, HOA president, radiated satisfaction, as if she'd just nabbed a master criminal. She kept eyeing my suitcase, sitting innocently by my sleeping bag, like it held state secrets. "I think there's a misunderstanding," I said, reaching for the folder I'd stashed 3 months ago, before grief and exhaustion had kept me away. This land, my family's for decades, held memories of Grandpa's stories about fighting for what's right. I handed Sheriff Harlan the property deed, watching Margaret's face as he scanned the official seals. Her smugness faltered, replaced by a flicker of panic, like she'd been caught stealing. "Looks legit," Harlan said, returning the papers. "Nathan Carter, heir to the Henry Carter estate. This land's yours." Margaret's mouth flapped like a stranded fish, but she recovered fast. "Sheriff, I'm Margaret Hensley, Lakeside Haven HOA president. HOA Rule 12.4 bans overnight camping, ownership or not." Her voice dripped with the confidence of someone used to being obeyed. "I heard my dad's old advice. When someone throws rules at you, check if they're making them up." "Interesting," I countered, my voice steadier than I felt. "Can you show me that rule? I'd love to see the legal basis for HOA control over land my family owned before your group existed." Margaret's composure cracked, her eyes darting to my suitcase again. Something about it unnerved her, and I wanted to know why. "Sheriff," I said, feeling a strange calm, "I'll open the suitcase. Let's clear this up." I popped the latches, and Harlan's flashlight lit up the contents. Manila folders stuffed with old deeds, yellowed survey maps, and an external hard drive labeled, "For Nathan, when the time is right. Love, Grandpa Henry." Margaret froze, her face draining of color, as if the suitcase held her worst nightmare. She didn't blink, didn't breathe, just stared like she'd seen a ghost. "Ma'am, you okay?" Harlan asked, concerned. She couldn't answer, her eyes locked on the hard drive. I knew then I'd stumbled into something bigger than a camping dispute. Grandpa had left me a weapon, and Margaret knew exactly what it could do. The suitcase held more than paperwork, it held a war. Grandpa's careful handwriting hit me hard, memories of him hunched over his desk, plotting to set things right. I'd found the suitcase a week ago, hidden in his workshop with a note. "Bring this to the lake when you're ready to fight." The truths waited long enough. I thought it was his dramatic flair, but Margaret's reaction told me otherwise. "Those documents were voided in 2004, she snapped, her voice tight. "A judge ruled pre-HOA claims invalid due to filing errors." Her precision suggested she'd rehearsed this, but how did she know what was in my suitcase before I opened it? "Funny," I said, pulling out my phone to light the hard drive. "Grandpa was obsessive about records. This drive's dated 2 months before he died. Let's see what he saved." Margaret's hands trembled, not from the cold. Sheriff Harlan, sensing the tension, wrapped things up. "Nathan, you're within your rights. Mrs. Hensley, without evidence, we're done." Margaret stormed off, but her parting glance at the hard drive was pure fear. By morning, I was in Grandpa's workshop, the air thick with sawdust and memory. I called my friend Alex Reed, an IT forensic expert who could crack digital mysteries. "Your grandpa was no ordinary retiree," Alex said, plugging in the hard drive. "This has military-grade encryption. The screen filled with folders spanning 2 years, labeled with chilling precision. 1. Operation Tyrant, held over 400 files. A spreadsheet revealed Margaret siphoning $180,000 from HOA accounts to her personal checking, funneled to Sunset Casino's ATMs. An audio file captured her voice, cold and calculated, discussing the Carter problem and ensuring Grandpa's claims died with him. Once he's gone, We'll handle any family troublemakers, she said. My fists clenched. Then Mrs. Clara Beaumont, Grandpa's neighbor for 35 years, arrived with cookies and a bombshell. Photos of Margaret and two men shifting property markers at night, trying to steal Grandpa's land inch by inch. She also had a list of 14 families bullied into selling their homes through fines and threats. Margaret made them feel alone, Clara said, her eyes sharp with anger. But they weren't. This wasn't just about my land, it was about a community crushed under Margaret's rule. Alex found more, recordings of her begging casino reps for credit, owing far more than she'd stolen. She was desperate, using HOA power to fund her addiction. We launched Operation Truth, rigging trail cameras around my property. At 2:23 a.m., they caught Margaret and her goons moving boundary markers, their faces clear in night vision. She retaliated, sending her hired security to harass me about invasive cameras. Enter Rachel Klein, a fierce young lawyer who lived for HOA takedowns. Bullies get sloppy, she said, grinning. Alex's deeper dive uncovered Margaret's racket. Families who fought her rules faced relentless fines, driving them out. A maintenance worker, George Tate, handed me a USB with 6 months of office recordings Margaret plotting to make the Carter kid leave and scheming with her security pals. She thought Grandpa's death ended her problems, but she'd underestimated me. Mrs. Clara's emergency tea party was a revelation. Her living room, a war room of maps and pins, hosted 8 residents with their own horror stories. Laura Mendez, fined for a child's swing set. James Kim, blocked from building a ramp for his disabled mother. Sarah Nolan, a nurse, cited for noise after quiet night shifts. Laura's sister, Emily, confessed to supporting Margaret until she threatened Laura's visa status. She turned us against each other, Emily sobbed. Clara's plan was simple: use HOA bylaws to call an emergency meeting, expose Margaret's crimes, and vote her out. The Lakeside Haven Community Center buzzed with 70 residents, a crowd Margaret didn't expect. She opened with a slick presentation, branding me a threat with photos of my tent and cameras, her security goons swearing I was a menace. I let her dig her grave, then stood. Calmly, I showed my deeds, Alex's financials proving her theft, and George's recordings of her plotting. The room fell silent as Grandpa's Operation Tyrant filled the screen. 2 years of her crimes laid bare. Margaret unraveled, screaming that Grandpa ruined her, claiming she deserved the money for protecting the community. Emily stood, tears falling, and called her the real threat. One by one, residents rose, a wall of defiance. Sheriff Harlan stepped forward. Margaret Hensley, you're under arrest. Her defiance crumbled as handcuffs clicked. 6 weeks later, in court, I shocked everyone. Your Honor, I request a suspended sentence if Margaret completes rehab and 500 hours of community service helping HOA victims. Prison wouldn't heal, our community accountability would. Margaret transformed, slowly. At a legal aid clinic, she helped families fight HOA abuse, confronting her past. Clara, now HOA president, made finances transparent, created fair appeals, and built a community garden where Margaret's rules once reigned. At the garden's opening, Margaret brought cookies, quietly helping Clara set up. They now meet weekly, not for business, but for forgiveness. Cleaning Grandpa's workshop, I found his final letter, $60,000 in a bank box for a community project, password, Justice with Mercy. The Henry Carter Pavilion rose on the lakefront, with picnic spots, a stage, and a memorial garden. At its opening, 200 people celebrated, including families who'd fled Margaret's reign. The Suitcase now sits in the community center, its plaque reading, "Never underestimate one old man, one suitcase, and one grandson who came home." Margaret teaches yoga to addicts, a shadow of her old self. Justice with Mercy built something stronger than Revengia Community Reborn. Have you faced an HOA tyrant or seen karma strike? Share below. Your stories might inspire my next tale. A neighbor claimed Grandpa's pond was public, unaware of what the FBI sought beneath its surface for decades. Support these stories with a donation. They keep the truth alive.